Hey, happy Alive at Lunch here with your coach, Helen, bringing you a bit of freedom nosh at lunchtime on this Thursday. Speaking of which, first thing you need to know, Live at Lunch is moving to Monday, 1 p.m. UK time from next week. So you will see me today, and then just in a few days' time, I'll be back again. Today, we're talking about what seems like a fabulous idea at the time, and maybe you've even had success with this for a short period of time. But making a loved one, making a member of your family or somebody you're living with, a flatmate, whatever it might be, the food police, aka somebody who's going to stop you from doing a certain thing with food or guard the food supplies, is never, ever a good idea. Not only will that probably make your problem worse, but it could potentially impact the relationship. And I've seen it happen in really negative ways. So we're going to dive into the what not to do. And more importantly, I'm going to help you understand the best thing to ask of your loved ones, of your flatmates, of your partners, anybody in your life who cares about you and wants you to be happy, healthy, and free. I'm going to give you some great advice today about what to ask them for that will actually help in this journey with food. For those of you who are new to this channel, my name's Helen Bennett. I am a coach who specializes in helping binge eaters, emotional eaters, secret eaters, stress eaters, mindless snackers identify the root cause of all the non-hunger overeating. And then we heal that. And the spoiler alert is, it's not just that you're lazy. It's not just that you're greedy. It's not just that you don't have enough willpower. Everybody I've met are hardworking, intelligent, disciplined badasses in many other areas of their lives. Oftentimes they've achieved incredible things, but that same discipline and willpower that they've exerted to achieve those things, they just don't seem to be able to use it where food is concerned. So it looks like a willpower problem because they're trying to exert willpower, and exerting more control and willpower seems like the solution. But if you're here and watching this, and if you struggle with any kind of overeating, chances are, again, it's got nothing to do with willpower. Now, I'm not going to go into all of that today. I have a fantastic masterclass, proper binge-worthy 90 minutes of explaining the whole thing. There are essentially 4 key components that are driving overeating. And I even in the masterclass give you real practical, actionable things that you can begin to do to change these behaviors for good. We're looking for the permanent fix, not just some temporary thing that lasts for a bit and then eventually it fails. We're going to do the deep work. We play the long game. And in that masterclass, you'll get to understand all of it. It comes with a bonus training as well, where I'll teach you the first skill that I teach every single client that I work with. Oftentimes, it's the 80-20. Let me just quickly show you. I'm going to try something new today. Let's pull this onto the screen. Fantastic. Look at that. So I will show you where to find that information. If you go to my YouTube channel or onto this video, you'll see below all of my videos. Can I click on this without the audio? There we go. You'll see I usually have a description. Where is it? Here it is. And if you scroll down, you'll find the Food Freedom Masterclass. Right, so that's how to find it. Now you know. And now I don't have to show that to you again. But actually, that's just me playing because I've never done that before. All right, everybody. So let's talk about asking somebody you love to be the food police, what to do instead. Here's the reason you want to avoid this at all costs. Now, there are moments in which asking for somebody's help, to kind of get some habit change rolling can be powerful. But here's what usually happens. Because it's not a willpower problem, and because just trying to control our food harder actually can make things worse. In this instance, we really want to avoid asking our loved ones. We're not saying don't do it, but we're saying avoid it at all costs. Because what is more likely to happen is either they just kind of forget, or they just so want you to be happy, and they see how miserable you start to become because that thing you've been using oftentimes to cope with emotions is no longer available to you, and you start getting ratty and moody and taking it out on them, and it's making you miserable. And so they just want you to be happy. And because food has brought you so much joy in the past, they may not be consciously aware of this. But, when you eat something, generally, maybe you're more pleasant to be around, or that energy of anticipation and fear is off, then they're more likely to just not really guard the food in the way that you've hoped they would. And the other thing that often happens is you love them. You don't want to look foolish. You don't want to let them down. You don't want to break the rule that you've asked them to implement. So it might be something like, hey honey, can you don't let me do the shopping today, or don't let me go to the kitchen after 8 p.m. or whatever, please don't bring crisps home with you because I won't be able to control myself. It's all that kind of stuff. When we're asking somebody else to moderate our behaviors, what generally happens is, because we're not healing the real problem, all we're trying to do is intervene in the symptom. It's kind of like putting plaster on top of a gaping wound, right? And ultimately that problem is going to show up in other ways. And what usually happens is you'll either reach for a new thing to cope with that emotional dysregulation or the exhaustion or the feeling of exhaustion, anxiety and overwhelm and frustration, whatever. And now that you're not using food, you might end up reaching for another. This is kind of like what I think of as addiction jumping. We often see it with people who've given up alcohol, given up smoking, and they're thinking, awesome, problem solved. Huge overeating problem. And maybe it was there all along, or maybe it begins when they give up those things. But what happens is, if the underlying problem hasn't been solved, we'll just addiction jump to something new. And we don't need you becoming like a shopaholic, gambler, sex addict, drinking, whatever. We don't need that. We actually want to solve the real problem. So what usually happens, though, is we don't necessarily addiction jump. What usually happens is we end up finding a way to get our fix. And I really say this from deep experience, because I have absolutely been here. And I will hands up say I've done everything that I've spoken about in this video. And, I'm sure some of you are going to relate. So what I found myself doing is I ended up becoming a secretive eater. I ended up lying. I ended up hiding food from my loved ones because I didn't want them to see me. I'm actually blushing just at the thought that I'm sharing this with you. It's the problem with going live. I can't edit, right? But hey, this is called vulnerable and real. Now I'm blushing even more. We don't want to be seen to be doing the thing that we don't want to do, especially because most of us are people pleasers and perfectionists, and other people's opinions mean the world to us. So when we've asked friends, family members, loved ones to try and stop us or try and help us not break the rules, but we're so overwhelmed with compulsion and desire to break them, we will end up just in small ways, maybe taking a few biscuits to the bedroom and hiding them in the cupboard. And then that way you're not going to the kitchen after 10, but you've still got the possibility of going to your bedroom and having a few snacks. And of course, the scope of that can get so much worse, where the deception, from hiding packets in the dustbin so nobody can see what you've been up to, can really start escalating. And these are just small examples. And trust me, I've done a lot worse. So it's horrible, because what it does is it turns us into liars. The guilt and the shame we might already be feeling about those behaviors then intensifies even more. And I believe that even worse, our partners can feel something's off. We're not being authentically ourselves, and we carry even more shame, etc. And that can really start eating corrosively away at a relationship if we're not careful. Because the best way to be in a relationship is real, raw, and honest as we can be. Now, obviously, I think we all have little parts of ourselves we don't show to all of our loved ones, and that's okay. It's totally appropriate and fine. But this is not one of those areas. We want to be able to, I'd imagine, in our concept of freedom with food, we want to be able to just eat what we want, stop what we full, and not worrying about when we can get it, and trying not to show anybody that we're eating. If we're eating, we're eating, no big deal. If we're not eating, we're not eating. We don't want to be thinking, oh, I hope they leave the house in 5 minutes, because then I could quickly go to the kitchen. We don't want that. And I think you guys are all going to resonate with that. Yeah? So what we want to do, what do we ask of them? Ultimately, the best thing we can do is to have an uncomfortable conversation, if you haven't had it already, with somebody that you love. If they don't know about what you're struggling with, share it with them as best as you can. Trying to share with them what it feels like to, after dinner, for example, to feel such an intense craving and desire to do something that hours ago you were sure you wouldn't do tonight, and they may not understand, and that's okay. And then you can share with them that you've found this incredible coach online called Coach Helen, and she is guiding you through the right way to heal this problem. But because it's food and we can't go cold turkey, it's going to take some time. And there might be moments where you're going to need a bit of support, or where you might be a bit grumpy and you might feel frustrated. And this is what you ask of your loved ones. Share with them that there will be times that you might need, especially as you go through this process, a bit more love, a bit more hugs, more warmth, more understanding. You might need to offload at the end of the day all the frustrations of the day, not so that you can look for solutions or burden them with your stuff. It's more about, oh, this is what happened today. You offload it. The energy of all that pent up emotion gets an outlet. We don't need solutions. And we just say, thank you so much for listening. I can't tell you how much better it feels to get that off my chest. And, you can say to them, oh, that's actually what I needed. And they will start to see that actually there's something very powerful about being there for you. So a lot of the people I work with will say, I don't want to have to, burden somebody with all of that stuff. Trust me, you love somebody, you want to be there for them on the days when they're struggling, on the days when they're offloading. Particularly if you're doing the work, those days will be fewer and further between, but we all have them. Because our job is not to sit in the cycle of the crisis, to go on and on and on about what happened at work. Our job is to just offload it, express our frustration, and then say, thank you so much for listening. Right, let's go have some dinner, or let's go sit down, or let's do whatever, And that's so much more appropriate than thinking, oh, I don't want to burden them with everything that's going on with me, and they can't solve it anyway. And then you end up using food to medicate that, or to offload it, or to release it, or to numb it. So that's a power tip for you right there. Just start asking your loved ones, or letting them know that you might be coming home and just sharing a bit about your day, the good, the bad, the ugly, just as a way of offloading all the stuff that you usually keep in, or use food to kind of medicate. And they may not understand it, but that's okay, because their job is just to listen. And you can actually say to them, oh, I just need to share with you what happened at work today. I'm not looking for advice or solutions. I just want to get it off my chest because it'll make me feel so much better. And then go. And then at the end, thank you so much for listening. That was great. And then you move on, right? So the goal is the emotional release, instead of having it all mucking around inside you. And sometimes the emotional release will lead to a cry, or you'll need a hug. And this is where you'll need to get, and choose to get, really good at asking for hugs, at asking for support. And there might be a little story kicking off in your head saying, oh, I can't do that, I'll look so weak, or it's embarrassing. Okay, then you need to send that partner of yours to me if that's the case, because really emotional release is human, as long as it's done in a way where we're not injuring somebody else. And these are the kind of things that are really nuanced, that if you feel you struggle with them, I can teach you how to have these uncomfortable conversations, how to express anger, frustration, all these emotions that maybe you're really not used to showing other people, and feel safe to do so without the potential of threatening the relationship. That's really important. We've got to do this with the people that we feel safe to be ourselves with. And that might mean that we start really small, with small incremental things, until we build the trust that it is safe to have a cry in front of our mother, or it's safe to have a bit of anger in front of a friend, and they won't leave us. So I'm not saying dive in the deep end and let all the trauma out in one go. That might give somebody a big fright. But what we do want to do is find ways to be more authentically ourselves, express what's going on for us, even if there's a little person inside us going, oh my God, they're going to not like me. Well, the truth is, you've been hiding so much of yourself for so long. It might feel a bit weird for them to see it, but I promise you, if they're the people who love you, love you, love you, they will probably feel more relieved to finally see that you are not perfect after all, and that you are a human with all these emotions just like they have. And it is completely normal and appropriate to share them. And even better yet, sometimes it actually allows them to feel that they can have permission to share what's on their mind, because now you've actually shown that it's okay to feel those feelings and to express those emotions. And maybe they've been holding on to stuff because they didn't want to burden you. And there's no better gift that we can give our loved ones, is there, than being there for them in a time of crisis. or even just at the end of a long day. Now, I actually personally think that's one of the most powerful roles a close friend, family member, or partner can play for you. It's just somebody to go home to at the end of the day and be like, oh, the best thing happened. Then you're releasing the joy and the excitement, or oh my God, the worst thing happened. And just sharing that will take so much away from that emotional charge and probably make it so much easier to do all the other habit change work around food that we talk about. So yeah, just really asking them to be there for you more and more without necessarily having to solve. When we ask them to be the food police, we're asking them to solve our problem. We're relying on an external force to help us, when in fact, the best thing we can do is begin to build what we need inside us so that we are capable of being around food and trusting ourselves around food, and all those compulsions and desires and cravings just start to fuck right off, excuse my language, because they really, really do. This food freedom isn't about being really good at resisting desires for the rest of your life. Food freedom is that point when they just don't hit, because you've been through this and you're regulating the right way and you're knowing what to do with all the emotions and your brain's rewired. And then 8 o'clock hits and you just haven't thought about food after dinner, or you didn't think about eating more, whatever, right? That's where we want to get you to, where it's just not something you're fighting. It doesn't exist anymore. And trust me, it's possible. Thank God. And it doesn't matter how old you are. Your brain will always rewire. Yes, it rewires faster when you're younger, but don't matter, baby. You come to me, we'll get this sorted. All right, lovelies. If you enjoyed that, please smash the like button. That would really be great. And I'd love to hear in the comments from you if you have made the mistake of relying on a loved one to be the food police. Let me know what you did and how that went. And maybe there'll be some comments that it did go well, and I'm open to that. I'm always ready to learn something new, but for the most part, it don't work. Subscribe to the channel if you want to be, if you want to hang around, see more of this, and smash that notification button if you'd like a little email in your inbox before I'm about to go live, so you know what I'm going to be talking about, and you can jump in and join me. And you could be munching on your delicious lunch while getting a bit of food freedom, mental nourishment from myself. Of course, if you'd like to work with me, link will be in that description again. I usually work with people for 4 months to a year, so it is quite an intensive process. But exciting news, at the end of this month, I will be releasing a course which will take you through the skills and drills that I teach all my clients. So you don't have to necessarily work with me one-on-one or in group. You will be able to start doing this work in a really nice structured way, DIY, because I know these videos, it's kind of bitty and botchy, but we want to have like a really structured format in which you start working through all these skills and drills, just 1 week at a time, one new thing at a time that builds on each other. And I'm really excited to launch that course because I have done it before when I was working with men and women who were struggling with a chronic eating disorder. They were struggling with bulimia and often binge eating disorder. And, I've taken the bones of that course, which was so powerful, and I'm just repurposing it for this incredible group of people who struggle with emotional eating, stress eating, binge eating. I'm really excited to do that with you. And that's all you need to know for today. Have a beautiful it's not Freedom Friday yet. It is still Thursday. Have a beautiful lunch. I'll see you on Monday for a little bit of motivation for the week ahead. And that's it, lovelies. Have a great day further. And I'll catch you then. Adios.